We continue our work in Ukraine Crisis Media Center, and the next topic of the briefing is announcement of winners of the Enterprise Discriminator of the year 2017. Who are the winners this year? We'll hear from Soldado, Kovalisidi, Amnesty International, Yana Shevchenko, the member of Coalition for Combating Discrimination, Irma Vitovska, communication manager of the same coalition. Good afternoon. I'm glad that you have come, and today we are handing out this prize, which was established by the Coalition for Combating Discrimination in Ukraine. Every year we give the prize to those people for the actions which discriminate, for violation of the rights. And I would like to say that today the handing over of the prize will be interesting. No winner come every year, but we will tell you about this a little bit later. This year we started creatively, and we got 49 applications. I am not capable to make any discriminatory actions. All elks are doing this. I'm always mixed with. Maybe once or twice I did so, and I was sick at that time. And the application was written, and now we will get to know who are the winners in 3 nominations. Iryna Fedorovych will tell about this. Good afternoon. For 4 years we have significant progress. We have 49 applications. Some applications were rejected because they were ineligible. Some candidates got from 5 to 2 applications. The prize, anti-prize for my language is my enemy. The prize was given to the mayor of Chernihiv, who said that the Ukraine should launch demographic politics and propaganda, for which Ukrainians should have 3 children, and those who do not have will be deemed either sick or not Ukrainian. This statement was rebroadcast many times, and this year, for the first time, there was a surprise. We, as a coalition, as a jury, were addressed after the voting. Our nominees addressed us every year. Atroshenko received 5 applications from different people. Mr. Atroshenko is the one who called us and told us that he was invited. We had interesting dialogue with him. I was wrong understood, he said. But this was a quote, and this quote was available in all mass media sources major in Ukraine. He said that nobody will read this. The team check and jury check all statements, and I don't know what was wrongly interpreted, because This is his quotation on Facebook. On his Facebook, he said this statement. His stand was that he did not try to say something bad. He is just concerned with the democratic situation in the country, and this is his version of solution. Why we have chosen him? 9 persons of our jury voted for. We tried to understand who is more discriminatory in his or her statements. The problem is neither politics nor civil servants of a high level in our country understand they are responsible for their statements. They think they can say anything and they will not be punished. Mr. Mayor of Chernihiv will be punished with anti-price today, so we will move forward to have the right for freedom of speech, which could not be used to insult people or to instruct people how many children they should have. In this nomination, we also had such applications as nomination of Interactive Museum of Science. Several weeks ago, the museum announced the day of protection of males' nervous system against women's pressure. And the museum said they do not understand what the problem is, and also nationalistic movement Carpathian Siege was nominated, and the right sector was nominated for dissemination of hatred. This is the dialect to also public activists, ECOM, transphobia representative. He was disseminated hatred statements, and Dmitrieva lady, she was nominated for her statement of transphobia. So even public figures, whatever the stand is, they can be nominated for discrimination and hatred statements dissemination. I hope sometime we will be able to change this anti-price with prize, that for some time we will be given prizes for promotion of diversity. But now we continue to talk about
disgrace. Disgraceful deeds.
For disgraceful deeds. So now I am announcing discrimination of real G. This is for disgraceful deeds. And this nomination, director of Dragomanov National Pedagogical University won. His name is Viktor Andrushenko. I graduated from this university. I would like to tell you why he won this year. For really disgraceful deed when the students were forced to go to the prayer instead of studies. It was a highly resonance topic. Dragomanov National Pedagogical University this year is becoming the place safe place of so-called national ultra-right forces, for example, the Gender Club and the National Pedagogical University debating discrimination against women. It operated only several months because always ultra-right groups, activists come and they insulted people, they torn out their banners, and no support was provided by the administration of the university. Instead, they were said that they are the threat to traditional families. So it is very important to talk about these trends because educational institutions gradually change into conservatism platform, and preferences for meetings are given to ultra-patriotic, ultra-conservative movements who try to stop and prevent right protection and human rights actions and gender actions. Unfortunately, NGOs of human rights activists, they have less and less premises for meetings. In this enterprise, I remember Citrus Shop, it was nominated and got high score. National Police of Ukraine for non-investigation of the crimes, hatred crimes. Pinchuk Art Center, it is a rather well-known place, visited by many people, but it is absolutely closed for disabled persons, and Pinchuk Art Center is not going to do anything to resolve the problem, unfortunately, as far as we see. I suppose next year we will have far less nominees. This is what we will be the result of our human rights activities, and those people such as Viktor Andrushenko, I hope he will get this information and make some conclusions. Thank you. The last nomination, maybe it is the most important one, it is discrimination in law. This could directly influence our lives. There were several very bright nominees there, and the one who won in this race, Soldado, will tell us about.
I'm really happy that I have an honor to greet on behalf of Amnesty International and all of us and religious organizations with this award, because the Council of Churches repeatedly counteract the adoption of the Istanbul Convention in Ukraine. The Istanbul Convention, this is not only about caste, this is about prevention and fighting violence against women and domestic violence. So this religious aspect in Ukraine, this religious component counteracts the adoption of this document. If we look at Turkey, Islam prevails, and the Istanbul Convention was adopted there, and also in other countries that this convention is adopted. If we look at Poland, and Catholicism prevails, but the Istanbul Convention was adopted. So religious world do not counteract this convention, but in Ukraine there is such opposition, but the majority of Ukrainian society wants this convention to be adopted, and we sent a petition to people's deputies, and in one day we had 1,500 signatures of people from different regions of Ukraine. And we will launch a campaign, 16 days against violence. This campaign is held in the majority of countries of the world and in the 15 regions of Ukraine, starting with the small villages and ending with big cities. We will have meetings, events in order to tell people about the Istanbul Convention, why we need it, and how we can make a step in order that people's deputies heard us, and we provide more support than this opposition of the Council of Churches create. And we hope that the Council of Churches won't be in this list next year. We want to thank all those who nominated these discriminators and the jury who really studied these cases in detail. And about the last nomination, the leader was the Deputy Golubev, who submitted draft law on prohibition of abortions. All the applications were made not only by public activists, but also people with different walks of life. And it is said that we have such instances of discrimination, but at the same time people pay attention to these problems, and this is the problem that is considered not only by lawyers, but our civil society is more active now and try to implement preventive measures in order to counteract human rights abuse. So, we provide legal advice. We try to help to those who have difficulties and who is discriminated, and also we follow the events on our sites and platforms on Facebook, and we hope that there will be less applications because our public officials and organizations will discriminate less, and they will carry out their functions, both legal and law enforcement functions. And if you have questions, we will be glad to answer. And here in the hall we have presence from Dobra Cukernia confectionery enterprise. So if you have questions, please ask. So one question from me. Please specify what pearls did we hear in the first and the second places. So maybe some people forgot what it was, in order to understand how this discrimination reveals itself. The last discrimination and laws, there were 3 leaders, the Council of Churches, 4 nominations, 5 votes of jury. Second place, Mr. Golubev, draft law on prohibition of abortions, 3 votes of jury. And Ternopil City Council that provided a provision that the parents of children who are not registered cannot get benefits concerning kindergarten. So they separated people in terms of their registration in Ternopil. So next nomination, the discriminatory deed. The rector of a pedagogical institute and gathering of students for prayer, Pinchuk Art Center, that they do not allow people with children on trolleys, and there were no facilities for disabled people. National police, because they do not counteract properly the acts of discrimination, and the police, it is in our rating not for the first time. So no, this is not, this is a systemic inability to deal with cases of hatred. And Privat Bank that didn't pay deposits to Crimeans, and also for the next is for sexist advertisement, and Chernigov deputy then also the deputies were compared by some official with the disabled people who have Down syndrome, and the Interactive Museum of Science, and concerning transgender issues, the rights sector, the speech of hatred, and the Minister of Culture, Evgeny Shuk, for comparison concerning eastern regions and his statements about the culture. I have a question. Валерий Полищук, Рабочая газета. So you do not present this award, you just announce it. When the jury votes, and this is then we send letters that people were awarded, and in 4 years of this award, for the first time, the mayor called us, and all others never responded. And after the announcement, we sent diplomas by post, and also we also send blinkers so that these people do not see the diversity of the world. Do you have collective awards? The law on education that was adopted by the Supreme Council, it should be awarded with such an award. There is discrimination in this. So we get application from people. These can be activists, lawyers, readers of Facebook or some site. We only select from these applications. And in last years, Supreme Council also got this award. And this year, if we are speaking about collective Council of Churches, this is a big group of people. And the Council of Churches got this award this year for systemic opposition of ratification of the Istanbul Convention on prevention of domestic violence, and establishes proper mechanism of work with such people, and the mechanism of punishment for those who commit such violations. And for 2 years, this discussion was ongoing, that Ukraine should ratify the Istanbul Convention, and the Council of Churches carry out events and implement measures to promote the idea that Ukraine does not need such the Istanbul Convention. And they do not only oppose the ratification, they constantly speak with deputies on this. Also, the Council of Churches, they support to alternative draft laws that were submitted instead of the Istanbul Convention. So what those who oppose the Istanbul Convention, they say that there is a word, gender, and it frightens our deputies, and they want to have milder law and do not want to adopt the Istanbul Convention, and the Council of Churches support the adoption of milder legislation on this. Crimean News. And what were the consequences of this awarding? Maybe law enforcement bodies somehow responded on this? No. Law enforcement bodies didn't respond on this, so you should understand that law enforcement, maybe some law enforcement organizations, what real results do we have? So this is about making these things public, to say about it, and for us this anti-award, as I said in the beginning, first we have 5 to 10 applications, now we have 50. So some cases that brought this nomination were on Facebook, in mass media. These discussions show that people started to pay attention to what other people do or say. 10 years ago, a minister who could say that the place of the woman is in the kitchen, but now there will be public opposition to this, and in some time politicians or public official for some hate speech or for his unpopular views that humiliate some group of people, that these politicians and officials will be discharged if human rights are observed in our country in the future. Maybe police also will work better. Also, there was an action, 16 days against violence. What is this action about? 16 days against violence campaign was initiated by UN, and it will be held in the Eastern Europe and Central Asia and in Ukraine, and these are key dates when we raise the issues connected with violence. And on the 29th of November, we will mark the day of human rights activists, women who are activists, and we will speak about domestic, sexual, physical, psychological violence against women, and in different contexts. The 1st of November, they discussed the issues of HIV, and those women who live with HIV, that they are discriminated, whether this discrimination is of systemic character. So if there are no more questions, we once again thank our speakers, and we hope that next year there will be less nominations because there will be less instances like this. Thank you.